Alright, so the first one we're going to talk about is a car I was actually buying. This is our Tales from the Toolbox section. It's just going to be me in front of a camera, guys. So I was in the process of buying this cool old cop car. It's a 2006, 60,000 miles on it, Crown Vic. A pretty good running old car. It had a couple of bad coils. They replaced some with used ones, and I was trying to get it from the dealership. Well, in Missouri, you can't sell a car from a dealership unless it has passed our Missouri state inspection. And this car, despite its low mileage, would not pass Missouri state inspection because it had a little brake light on the dash. And that brake light said that, if it's on, you have an error in your braking system somewhere. So they took it to their shop, the dealership shop, and they attempted to communicate with the brake system, and the EBCM, electronic brake control module, wasn't communicating. And to me, that was a big deal. But I wasn't really working on cars full time at that time. I had taken a year or so off to explore sales and was just doing it at my shop, but I had a different day job. And I was like, you know what, they'll fix it. So they put rear brakes and rotors on it. They bled the system multiple times. I mean, the brake fluid in this thing looked awesome. And what else did they do? They put new wheel speed sensors in the front or something of that nature. I mean, they did all kinds of stuff, and they crawled all over this thing looking for broken wires and that kind of thing. And finally, I was getting pretty frustrated. It'd been like 2 weeks. I'd paid cash for this car. It was like a $5,000-$6,000 car, and I said, "Well, you mind if I just go over to the shop and talk to the guys?" They said, "No, no, we don't mind. We don't mind." I get over there, and sure enough, the first thing I said was, "All right, if you don't mind, I'd like to help. I work on cars some myself." Didn't make a big deal out of it. Didn't say anything about certifications or nothing. I just work on them a little bit myself. So I began messing with it. The first thing I said was, "Do you have a scan tool here that's supposed to communicate with brake control modules?" I said, "Yeah. But it belongs to this other guy, and he's not here. And I don't want to use it without his permission." Okay, so I'm without a scan tool at that point. I don't have any of my tools except a pocket flashlight and my little screwdriver that I usually carry, which I haven't put in my pocket this morning. So I went over and started looking over the car. It was in the air. I put it in the air on the lift. I start looking for broken wires because I've got a brake light, that little red brake light that senses an error, but I've also got an ABS light on. And that's not normal to have both of those on at the same time. So the whole time I'm thinking, I don't have communication with something. I'm looking at this point for like mouse eating wires, squirrel eating wires. I'm thinking wiring issue. Um, I did borrow a multimeter and a test light from the old boy and went through and tested every fuse under the hood. They were all good. Okay. Located the EBCM fuse. It's good. It's got power to it from it. Something's just not right. And he says, "Well, I gotta go run across the street here," and because their shop is separated from the dealership by a road. So he hops in his truck and runs across the street, go talk to his boss for a little bit, probably to complain about me. And I just start looking, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start tracing brake lines and stuff like that. And I do. I trace the brake lines all the way down to the brake control module. Now, the ABS module and the EBCM are the same module on that car. What I find is the mechanical section of that module is still there. So it's got 4 or 6 little bitty Torx-headed screws. I think they're Torx, little bitty screws, like M4s, kind of long. The mechanical section's there, but the electronic section is gone, and the screws are sticking out. Someone had taken it off and screwed the screws back in. Well, I got to thinking about it. This was a police car. If you take the electronic section off, you just unplug it and unscrew it and go throw it somewhere, You don't have to worry about ABS anymore. You got regular old brakes, just like old muscle cars. I get to thinking, okay, so I dig around for a little while next to it, and I find the plug. And I found the other plugs, two plugs, not plugged into anything. They've just been kind of tucked underneath it and zip tied in place. Now, these kind of fixes are kind of hard to find because you're not looking for a broken part, you're looking for something that wasn't there. So when I'm looking for a broken part or a noise or something, usually it's okay, it's not that bad to find because I'm looking for a break in a system. I'm looking at stuff that everything looks kind of like X, except for this one part. It's a variable, it's different. Well, this isn't like that. These wires were tucked away very neatly, and the bolts were down there so far you couldn't hardly see them. Okay. So I pull the car back down out of the air. Old boy comes back. I said, hey, I know what's wrong with the car. He said, what's that? And the whole time, everything I've said has been wrong. He can't believe anything I say. I'm always wrong. I've been real patient with him because he doesn't know me from Adam, and it's his shop. I'm a guest. I said, hey, look down in there to back that brake control module. He says, yeah. And I point out where it is. And he said, well, it's just an ABS module. I said, yeah, but the black part's gone. The electronic portion, it's only like yay thick, is gone. And he says, oh, did it have one on it? I think it did from factory. See the screws in it? They're quite a bit longer than what they need to be. And then I found these plugs. And we need to cut the zip tie and pull these out and get a module. So he thinks about it. I managed to break one of the screws loose with a pair of pliers that was laying there and pull it out and found out what size head it was. It was like a T15 or something. And I said, it's a T15, and they had several other cop cars. I said, go pull one off a similar year. They had like an 07. Go pull one off that. It's just two plugs and like 4 or 6 screws. Go pull that off that and bring it back. So after a little bit of talking, he gets permission from his boss to pull a module off for a test part. He pulls it off, brings it back. We spray a little bit of WD-40 on it just because rubber seals and stuff. Had to go over where it magnetizes these little valves. Just touch. Slapped it on there. I put screws in and plugged it in myself. Unhooked battery. Touch terminals together for 50 seconds. Plugged it back on. Fired it back up. Light was out. The whole time he couldn't communicate with this module was because there wasn't a module. Now, as it turns out, I went ahead and got the car past state, drove it for quite a while. I was cleaning out the back one day because it was, except for the paint, it was a really clean car. And cop cars have a special mount for the spare tire. And we weren't using it. It was all just laying around the back. So I put it up kind of underneath the rear tray and managed to get all that tied down so I had the extra trunk room because I was trying to sell stuff. And wanted to have the extra room. It was great to, fit a big cooler down in it, that kind of thing. As I pulled everything out, I found the factory module. Someone had unbolted it, thrown it in the trunk, moved on about their life. Anyways, car ran real good. Actually traded it for my shop truck. Never had a lot of problems out of it. I did put, what are they? MSD or, Edelbrock, I guess. I put Edelbrock coils on it and cleaned the throttle body. A couple of oil changes. I think I changed oil over 3,500 or 4,000 or something on that car. Charged the AC up once. Beyond that, it was a great running car. I never had any issues with the brakes or the brake light or the ABS or anything. The only deal was that when I purchased it, it had a misfire. They put 2 used coil packs on it, and because it ran bad. And then not long after I got it, I ended up just throwing 8 of them at it because I was tired of messing with it. And it was missing an ABS module, and it stumped a shop for 2 weeks because it was missing. These are nice guys. These are not unintelligent cats. But the module was just flat missing. So that's that. That's the first tale, I guess, story from Tales from the Toolbox. I hope you enjoyed it. And just as we have time, and if we have cold, nasty mornings, like this morning's kind of wet and rainy and 40, which isn't awful, but it's wet and rainy and 40 in the shop as far as floor's cold. So, been heating up this morning, and I wanted to share. So, have a good one. Please subscribe to this channel.